Good evening. This is the big story tonight, this Tuesday, the 27th day of March 2018. I'm Yvonne Okwara Matole. Our big story tonight, Miguna may have a chance to settle in the country after all, following a High Court order stating that he be released immediately. In her ruling, Lady Justice Rosalyn Aburili also directed that Miguna appears in court tomorrow. That's the 28th of March 2018. This order brings to a halt dramatic episodes that shrouded Miguna's return from Canada yesterday. Earlier, the self-proclaimed general of the National Resistance Movement failed to surrender his Canadian passport and declined to apply for a temporary visa. He refused to sign forms that would regularize his Kenyan citizenship in order to be cleared. Miguna also thwarted efforts to deport him to Dubai and was held incommunicado at the JKIA for hours. Through his lawyers led by Dr. John Haminwa and Nelson Havi, Miguna has named Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i, Inspector General of Police Joseph Poinet, and the PS in the State Department of Immigration, Gordon Kihalangwa, and the DCI, among others, as respondents in the case. Will Miguna be in court as a Canadian or a Kenyan? Will the court order be obeyed this time? That's the conversation we are having tonight. It continues to be the focus here on the show this evening. I'll be discussing this in just a moment with lawyer Oliver Kipchumba. And we're also expecting Suba Churchill from the Rights Protection Center. He's the presiding convener of the civil society. We will be speaking with them in just a moment. But first, I want to take you to Sophia Wanuna, our lead reporter on the show tonight. After such a dramatic night last night, Sophia, congratulations for holding your own, even when the threats to the work that we do came under severe scrutiny last night. It's good to have you with us tonight, once again, safe and sound. So, you've been keeping tabs on this story, as indeed the world witnessed yesterday. Let's talk about the very latest. So much has happened from last night.
Yes, Yvonne, good evening. So much has happened from last night after that botched press conference. Remember, we're getting an update when again those GSU officers came and dispersed us at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. This was some minutes past 11 p.m. Throughout the day today, there was that directive coming from the Ministry of Interior that no journalists be allowed into the airport today. Our team was there early in the morning. However, they were denied access. There were officers manning the main entrance, and only passengers, actually, those traveling, and the officers, as you go through the checks, were requiring to see travel documentation for one to be given access, fearing that journalists could, in one way or another, still make their way into the international airport. That's the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. So no access in as far as what's going on in there. However, of course, we've been keeping tabs with the lawyers representing Miguna. James Orengo, senior counsel, is there tonight. Nelson Havi, Umbeta Cliff, alongside others, including Amolo as well, Otiende, and that's representative from the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. So following this court order directing the immediate release of Miguna and that he appear in court tomorrow, I've just spoken to Nelson Havi, one of the lawyers, and he told me that they were looking to serve this order to the chief officer immigration at the airport. However, they've been denied access. Remember, this time around they did not have access like they did yesterday. Yesterday they were able to sit and chat and communicate with Miguna. Today, all day from last night, Miguna has been locked up, holed up in one of the areas in the airport, unclear where exactly. So the lawyers not having access to him. So they've been seeking to serve this order to allow for it to be implemented. However, the officer has not availed himself. So we've just seen photos they've posted online, them posting it on the Office of Immigration. And so it's again, wait and see as to whether this will be adhered to. also by the various parties that are respondents in this matter. But over 30 hours now, and Miguna continues to be at the airport. And I'm joined tonight by the Chief Executive Officer of the National Super Alliance, Norman Magaya, to talk a little bit more about just what we've seen transpire in the last several hours, and what a night it was yesterday, all afternoon first, and then all the developments we saw happen. A general comment first, perhaps, from you.
I think, first of all, it's very unfortunate, the events of yesterday up to today. This day has been there. The state has been aware that Miguna was coming back on the 26th of March. The lawyers made sure that the immigration office was aware. The law and record Harvey Nelson wrote to the Direct Immigration and the Minister of Interior to notify them the date Miguna was arriving, the exact time that he was arriving, and asked them if they had any query that they needed sorted out so that it could be dealt with well in advance. They didn't do that. They remained quiet despite receiving those letters. So we are quite taken aback by the events after the arrival of Miguna yesterday. I think one undeniable fact, and which court has affirmed, is that Miguna is a Kenyan citizen by birth, and that those rights cannot be taken away from him in an arbitrary way, the way the state wanted to take it. And even the orders given by Justice Kimaru, the state preferred an appeal, brought on board what they considered were five-star lawyers to try and overturn those orders. The Court of Appeal still held in favor of Miguna. So I think the state must stop the games it's playing. It's not helpful to the state. They must be able to allow Miguna entry into Kenya unconditionally as a Kenyan citizen.
So let's talk about what we've had from the Directorate of Immigration, from the Ministry of Interior, as far as what they've done since he arrived to ensure he gets entry into the country. One, they say that, of course, following the orders from the judge, if not having Kenyan passport, he was to then use a Canadian passport. But when he arrived, he declined to submit the same and insisted to use the ID, which is not procedure upon landing. So is that then out of order for Miguna not to have then facilitated for this process to flow by refusing to do so?
I think the orders Justice Chacha Mwita gave must be read together with the orders that Justice Kimaru gave. And the order of Justice Kimaru, which remains alive today, is that the state was to forthwith, with immediate effect, give back Miguna his passport, or facilitate for him to get his passport in wherever he was, whether in the Kenyan embassy in Canada or in other cities that he has been, where Kenya has embassies and consulates. They didn't do that. The first limb of the order, which was order 3 of the orders of Justice Chacha Mwita, directed the state to give back Miguna his passport. That is the most noble thing that the state will have first done, having lost an appeal at the Court of Appeal. They didn't do that. The lawyers wrote to them to find out if there were any logistics that the state needed sorted out. The state did not respond. So clearly, even if Miguna turned out yesterday, the order directing that he be facilitated and allowed to travel on his Canadian embassy ought to have been affirmed by the state by responding to the letter that our lawyer Nelson Harvey wrote to them, indicating that they will be comfortable for him to travel on his Canadian passport. But the mere travel on the Canadian passport did not deprive him of his Kenyan citizenship. And so what the state wanted to do was, yes, allow him to use the Canadian passport, but demand that he be given a tourist visa. A tourist visa in itself is restrictive in a number of ways. One, that he will not participate in political activity, that he will not be engaged in gainful employment. And that is a deprivation of his rights. So you cannot seek a citizen to be admitted in the country in a manner that compromises his ability to earn a livelihood.
But why not get admitted and then canvass and go back to the court with these same issues you're raising now, as opposed to this standoff that does not appear to be ending? Because how sure even are you now with this new order that it will be obeyed?
I think we are dealing with a state that has demonstrated absolute bad manners in the manner in which they are treating the whole issue. They have engaged in arbitrary disregard of court orders, in gracious violation of the rule of law, and there is no guarantee that if they were given that Canadian passport, they will not have defaced and destroyed it the way they did the other one. And all they needed to provide that safety and comfort that they will not do anything to this Canadian passport was to respond to the letter Nelson Harvey wrote to them and indicate that they are comfortable, that he travels on a Canadian passport, that he will be allowed entry here as a Kenyan citizen. When you admit somebody on a tourist visa, one thing that you are saying is that he's not a citizen of this country, and the court has held otherwise. So the mere act of accepting to be admitted on a tourist visa will have been in violation of a live court order that the state is yet to comply with.
But what do you say that to those who say that the grandstanding, allegedly as it's being put on Miguna's side, does not help the situation, in that he would have come in and the issues you're raising would have then been again deliberated and brought before court, as opposed to have this standoff?
Sophia, fundamental rights and freedoms are not pallets that are granted by the state. They are inherent, and rights are fought for. They are not generously dished out by the state. And so it's commendable what Miguna has done, first of all, to fight and enforce his rights that the state is violating. He's refused to take the easier route and is taking the rarely traveled route of fighting and enforcing his fundamental rights and exposing the hypocrisy that is the Jubilee government. And I think one thing that is clear with this treatment of Miguna is that we need to go back to the trenches, that we are dealing with a live dictatorship, that if we do not fight this dictatorship and defeat it, Kenyans will not enjoy their rights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You talked about this dictatorship, but then there's that handshake that comes into play. Yes, on one hand, Raila Odinga did go to the airport last night, but Miguna has come out very vocally to criticize it, saying in fact it was a betrayal of the people, especially of those who lost their lives during that electioneering period. And here you are criticizing that same regime. He even calls a despotic one. So where is one to read from, especially those that support the National Super Alliance? On one hand, there's a handshake, we're uniting. On the other hand, these people are disregarding the rule of law, they're betraying the people.
I think the handshake between Uhuru and Right Honorable Raila Odinga never meant to suspend the Constitution of Kenya. Our Constitution remains a living document. That handshake is not a caveat to enforcement and respect for fundamental rights and freedoms. And so where fundamental rights and freedoms, where there is a threat to breach of the Constitution by the state, then it behooves all citizens to fight to ensure that that threat is defeated. And I think this is what the invitation that Jubilee is providing. And if that invitation is extended, we will gladly accept it and get back to the trenches to fight.
Yeah. So could what this handshake symbolized fall apart out of what we are witnessing even with this new development?
We've said that where the Constitution is breached and there is arbitrary abuse of power, that we won't mind, that we will take the path and fight for the struggle for reforms in this country, for respect of fundamental rights and freedoms. And if that struggle to enforce our Constitution means that there is a breakup of that short-lived honeymoon, then so be it. We are not afraid, and I think one message we will send to Jubilee is that we are not afraid of being where we have been. We are very comfortable where we are, and we are willing to take a fight to their doorstep. Yeah. So that handshake will not distract us. Two, is that handshake was supposed to be accompanied by a show of goodwill from both sides. On our side, you've seen we've suspended counter assemblies, people's assemblies processes. We've suspended the process to convene a national convention. On their part, Jubilee has literally done very little, if any. To date, the criminal cases that were trumped up charges still remain live in court. To date, you can see what they are still doing to Miguna. These are things that we are supposed to get away as a show of goodwill to the established environment so that negotiations can take place and resolve the outstanding issues.
And I understand one of the things that also was to be suspended is the national resistance movement for which he heads. And he, speaking to him last night at the airport, he said he does not intend for any such thing to happen. So what happens then? Is there still space for Miguna in the National Super Alliance under NRM?
I think National Super Alliance, we operate an open door policy. Anybody who subscribes to the values, to the ideals that are set out in our coalition agreement is highly welcome to be party to the NASA coalition. Two, you cannot suspend that which has not been registered. So NRM is an idea that captures the imagination of our supporters.
What do you mean not registered? So deregistered. What do you mean not registered?
How do you deregister that which is not registered? NRM was an idea. It was not a movement that was registered by the Register of Political Parties. It was an idea. It was a tool for the struggle.
An idea listed as a criminal organization by the Interior Ministry?
That was since set aside by Justice.
Yes, it was set aside, but before it was set aside, it was listed as such, meaning it was in existence,
That is now overtaken by events. What's alive now is the court order that reinstated the NRM as an outfit in Kenya. And I think all these outfits have a leader, and the leader is the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. And I think with that handshake, he declared a ceasefire of hostilities. And if Jubilee is not obeying the ceasefire, I think there is no obligation on anybody to stop the activities of NRM.
So even the ceasefire applies to NRM as well?
Yes, and its activities cannot be stopped in the face of this violation of this ceasefire.
So speaking to Miguna, he says his criticism of Raila and what is described as a huge betrayal stands, and that yesterday, despite him coming to show solidarity, he was like, let's deal with this for now, but I will continue to speak out loudly and NRM will continue to be. So do you then eject Miguna, who is keen to continue with what he believes is the path to take at this particular point in Kenya's history?
I think one of the beauties of our 2010 Constitution is the freedom of expression. And I think Miguna is fighting for an idea that he believes in. He is not committed any criminal offense. He's operating within the spheres of the law to pursue an expanded democratic space. And as long as he's doing that, I think he's well within his rights to pursue that struggle.
Will he be ejected like Wetangula was, the principal?
I'm not aware of any member of NASA who has been ejected
from his position as minority leader.
No. That one, I leave to the senators to speak to it. There is no decision. There is no intention to eject anybody from any position.
All right. Finally, are you disappointed that the other principals have not spoken to this matter, have not come out to either show solidarity or at least express their sentiments in as far as the developments around this Miguna issue is concerned?
I'm not disappointed. From where I sit. The principals contribute to this struggle in various forms, and since yesterday they have been up on this matter. As late as this evening, there have been consultations on how to go about it. So they may not have come out in the media, but internally there has been substantial participation from the principals. So I'm not disappointed. I'm happy with the contribution they have so far made, and I'm sure that...
So what contribution have they made?
You've seen lawyers running around. Those lawyers run for nothing. There has been canvassing, there has been shadow diplomacy that the principals are engaged in behind the scenes. And I think all this will come to the fore at the appropriate time.
Okay, so you maintain NASA is holding strong even amidst all the challenges?
You can see me here. I'm the coalition doctor. Okay. So NASA is very healthy.
Very healthy.
Yeah.
All right. The final words from the National Super Alliance Chief Executive Officer Norman Magaya tonight here at Capitol Hill. Things in NASA continue to hold, and Miguna is right to express himself. And of course, they're seeking that the rule of law be upheld at the end of the day. So we'll wait to see whether this new order will in fact be acted on, or we'll see the runarounds we saw earlier, Yvonne, because remember, initially, before he was forcefully ejected from the country, the issue was around, we have not been served. That's what the various state agencies were talking about. We have not been served, or at least even if service was done, it was not done procedurally. And that has been one of those very interesting areas, if you like, some looking at it that way, that agencies have sought to bring to the fore in trying to go around an issue, if you like.
Yes, indeed, Sophia, and that has been an issue. And in fact, that was one of the orders of Justice Chacha Mwita when he made his ruling on the 26th of February, asked them to make sure that service is done in the major dailies as is required. Thank you for that, Sophia Wanuna, our lead reporter here on The Big Story. Okay, so let's continue to talk about this some more. We have lawyer with us, Oliver Kipchumba. Good evening, Oliver.
Good evening.
Thanks for making the time for us
Yvonne,
tonight.
And thank you for the invite too.
Great. So
Yes.
Let's start by talking about the events of today, with the Immigration Department saying they were sending documents to him to quote, regularize his citizenship. What did you understand that to mean? And also with respect to Chacha Mwita's orders?
I think, Yvonne, first of all, it is unfortunate that we have had such a standoff because of, I think, from where I sit, I'll call it a misunderstanding. Because these are just simple things. One, it is not in dispute that Miguna is a Kenyan by birth. But what is in dispute is his documentation and his citizenship. But whether he's a citizen by birth, it has been demonstrated and it has been restated by 3 courts. It was first said by Justice Kimaru. The same was said again by Chacha Mwita, and the Court of Appeal restated the same. And today, the order given by Justice Aburili has restated that. So, as to whether Miguna is a Kenyan citizen by birth is not in question, and that one is not in doubt. What has brought us this far is the issue of documentation. And I think the reading of the Constitution around Article 14, Section 5 of the Article 14, it talks about a citizen who has lost his citizenship. He must regain it, and is entitled to that
and
by
application. How does he regain it? Because even though, as you say, the courts have continued to speak openly about this issue of his citizenship, the response by the Immigration Office today seems to state otherwise. This is what they say. As we stated earlier this year, Miguna intentionally lost his citizenship in 1998 when he acquired the Canadian citizenship at a time when Kenya did not allow dual citizenship. So they're still holding strong that he is not in fact a Kenyan citizen and needs to, what they term, regularize his status.
Yes, Yvonne, before Miguna regularizes his status, he is not a Kenyan citizen as per the documentation, because he now is deemed to be a Canadian citizen. Because in 1998 or 99 thereabouts, he renounced his Kenyan citizenship at a time whereby we did not have dual citizenship, which means he could not have maintained his Kenyan citizenship and the Canadian citizenship.
Okay, Oliver, I'm confused because just a short while ago you stated that his citizenship is not in doubt, that he is a citizen by birth.
Yes.
Now you're talking about him not being a citizen because of his denouncing it in 1998. Which is it?
The issue is it's a matter of documentation. And I don't think if we can even argue in a court of law about whether Miguna is a citizen by birth. That one is a foregone conclusion. It has been restated severally. But when it comes to documentation, we are where we are today, Yvonne, not because of whether he's a citizen by birth or not. It is because of documentation. And the court directed that Miguna be facilitated by the government of Kenya, and that facilitation is what we saw happen today. The director of immigration sent documents to the airport for Miguna to regularize, to reapply his citizenship.
Okay, so do you believe then that the immigration department is obeying and complying with the court orders that were issued on the 26th of February?
I think in terms of court orders, there is one thing that must be categorical, that whenever a court gives an order, that order must be obeyed. Anything that follows after that, if the order was not obeyed, anything becomes an illegality. And I think we are aware what Justice Kimaru said, giving his orders. And we know up to now what happened.
All right,
so I think that is where we need to begin from.
So what is your position then? Are they obeying and complying with the court orders or not?
I think they have partially complied with the court order.
In what way?
Because the court order had 2 limbs. The first limb was for them to give Miguna his Kenyan passport. And the second limb was, if that was not possible, was to process Miguna's entry into the country with his Canadian passport. And I think that is where the standoff has been, because from what I saw in the media was that Miguna came in and tried to enter the country using his national identity card as opposed to the passport, the Canadian passport.
So which part do you think they partially complied with?
The part whereby they were asked by the court to process and to help Miguna regularize his documentation as a Kenyan citizen.
Okay, let's speak to Nelson Havi. He is one of Miguna's lawyers and is joining us on phone. Nelson, your thoughts as to where we find ourselves now, and we're speaking about this issue of regularization of his citizenship status. What are your thoughts on that? What does that even mean?
Well, as we speak right now, we've just left the airport where we served the Department of Immigration together with the security officers at Jomo Kenyatta with an order that was made by the High Court this afternoon directing the immediate release of Miguna in order that he may appear before court tomorrow. Now, this issue is very clear because citizenship is not a matter of documentation. Miguna was born a Kenyan citizen. Miguna traveled to Canada for studies in circumstances that are well known and documented. He fled the country because of the oppressive KANU regime then. But upon his return, he applied and was issued with a Kenyan passport in the manner required by law in 2012. That is after the promulgation of the current constitution. Now, it cannot therefore lie in the mouth of the Ministry of Interior to claim that by the time Miguna was applying for the passport, he was a Canadian citizen and by that reason therefore precluded from becoming a Kenyan. That cannot be the case. Because for you to renounce your citizenship, you must sign a formal declaration before an immigration officer renouncing your Kenyan citizenship and ceding all rights that you may have enjoyed as a Kenyan citizen. Miguna has never done that. And as we speak right now, the government is under compulsion by several orders of the High Court to reissue him with the passport that they perforated in order that they can travel and remain in Kenya as a Kenyan.
Okay, I'd like us to talk about Justice Aburili's orders today. She ordered his immediate release. You're saying you've left the airport. What is the status of Miguna now? Is he with you? Is he a free man before his appearance in court tomorrow?
No, Miguna is not a free man. Since yesterday night, he's been held up at Terminal 2 in a toilet without any facilities, without food, without access to his lawyers. We've not been able to see him the whole day. Now, the individuals who are holding him at the airport are those of the lowest command in the police and in the migration office. None of them wants to engage us in the manner in which this order is to be complied with. In fact, all the policemen we confronted just ran away. As a result of which, we are forced to pin these orders on their doors.
So Nelson, where is he right now? Is he still holed up in the same area he's been since last night?
Yes, he's still there.
And is that not in contravention of Lady Justice Aburili's order for his immediate release?
You see, this is compounding contempt because the government has now disobeyed a total of 7 orders without any reason whatsoever, without any justification. Because yesterday the altercation occurred when they insisted that they must issue Miguna with an entry visa, a tourist visa for 6 months. Miguna is not a tourist. Miguna is a Kenyan. And for that reason, we insisted there will be no compliance on our part in respect of the demands made yesterday or even the one of today. Because all that the government needs to do is to print a passport for Miguna and bring it to him wherever he is.
Have you been able to speak with him? Because we'd heard word report that he had been held incommunicado even when those papers from the immigration were being taken to him. Have you spoken with your client at all today?
I've spoken to him twice. The first time at about 11:30 a.m. and the second time at around 3:30 p.m. through the phone of the Canadian High Commissioner, who is the only person who has been allowed to go and speak to Miguna.
And how is he doing?
He's upbeat, he's determined, having successfully resisted the attempt to cut him away yesterday to Dubai. He is in high spirits. And bearing in mind the enormous work that has been put by him and his advocate, it is our expectation that they will either release him today. Even if they don't release him today, then they must produce him to court tomorrow morning.
That's with your habeas corpus application for him to appear in court tomorrow. Please stay with me. Nelson, have you on the phone. We also have Oliver Kipchumba. We continue to speak about this issue. We will come back and talk about what next, but we'll also importantly be talking about why this matters.